And we would like to welcome you inside the Galaxy Radio studio for another installment of Here's the Thing with Kevin Smith and Jacob Glassbill. That was a rough start.
Yeah, what people don't see is what happens behind the mic over here, and it was kind of a struggle for you over there.
There was a lot of buttons to press, and I forgot which ones to press and what order to press them in, and it was a mess.
We're still working on it. It's only week 3.
It is third episode of Here's the Thing. We're so thankful for our dedicated fan base, wherever you're at.
Because we do have a great following all across the country, apparently.
All across the country in
2 states.
I think 3.
3?
Well, Iowa,
Missouri,
and North Carolina.
Oh, we had someone in North Carolina.
Yeah, man, we're really getting out there.
The more the merrier, man. We'll be a nationwide show by the end of this.
Technically, we are nationwide. We
don't
have listeners nationwide.
I'm telling you, we're gonna have a listener in every state. And I'm going to pay someone to go to every state for each show.
Okay. I like your enthusiasm. We're thankful for our listeners that we do have, though. This has been a terrible start. This is the worst start to a show ever. But we're gonna rebound.
We're just loosening them up because we're about to hit them with some good stuff.
We're going to rebound with some thrilling debates.
Per usual. And there's some... blood pressure rising topics today. That's what I'm...
Absolutely. That first one we're going to get to, Rams, Vikings.
Right off the bat.
We'll talk about it. I don't know if you guys heard the news about Lance Lynn and the pitching prospect Alex Reyes for the Cardinals. We'll get into that. It's not good news. If you hadn't heard, we're sorry.
No, if you're a Cubs fan, it's probably good news for them.
Yeah, it's true. And we'll talk about Webster Sports. They had 3 seasons end this past weekend. Obviously not most uplifting of news, but they had good seasons. So we'll talk about the Webster seasons that ended. Webster Fall Sports that just ended. Do you want to get into it, Rams, Vikings?
Let's do it.
All right, Rams and the Vikings played over the weekend, on Sunday actually. I'm a Vikings fan. Jacob's a Rams fan. And... as I predicted, the Vikings won.
First of all, you didn't predict.
I said the Vikings would win.
You said the Vikings would blow the Rams out.
And they would have if the Rams hadn't been intentionally...
Are you kidding?
I'm kidding. But
Teddy Bridgewater was in there the entire game except the last 3 drives.
No, he was out the entire fourth quarter.
The last 3 drives.
Well, yeah, they were quick drives because Sean Hill is a good backup, but not a good actual football player.
We in St. Louis know that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You had him, last year?
Last year, and then he did okay, and then we're like, we're not going to pay you, and so he went and got second string money somewhere else.
Yeah. So let's talk about the game. Vikings win in overtime by the score of 21-18.
And before we get on the topic, the game should have ended as a Rams victory, and here's why. First of all, the extra point, 2-point conversion that Jeff Fisher
beginning of the game.
Well, obviously, if you score 1 point, you win that game. Second of all, Greg Zuerlein with that horrific miss in the fourth quarter.
Right when it left his foot, it jumped to the
right.
right.
You know that E-Trade Baby commercial with when he's golfing and then he's like Shankopotamus? Yeah, that's what it was. It was a Shankopotamus.
Yeah, that ball jumped way to the right. But Vikings, here's the thing. How I found it interesting. I saw people on Twitter didn't watch the game, and then they saw the score was 18-18. They're like, how does one team get to 18? Nonetheless, 2 teams end up at 18 points.
Each of them kicked 6 field goals.
But no.
2 touchdowns by the Vikings.
Yeah, the Vikings are very good. But so the Vikings win in overtime 21-18, as I predicted. And let's talk about it. There was a couple hits on Teddy Bridgewater in the third quarter. First one, he was rolling out, had thrown the ball, clearly had already gotten rid of the ball. I can't remember what Rams player was the dirty culprit, but
oh my God!
But
this is such a biased lead-in.
He hit Bridgewater down low, going at his knees, which is an illegal hit.
Okay.
And it wasn't penalized.
And just so everyone knows, we have discussed this already. Not completely, but I did mention to Kevin that if he read the rule book, that as long as the quarterback is no longer in the pocket, he's considered a runner.
Okay.
And the tackle below the knees is a completely legal hit.
Not when he's defenseless.
Are you kidding me?
He had already thrown the ball. You can't just go hit someone at the knees, and that's a late hit. I don't care.
He hardly touched him.
Oh, my gosh. He hit his shoulder pad right into his knee.
That is... But if we could pull that video up, I would love to see it. We don't have time for it, but...
And it's a radio show.
Yeah. Everyone watch this.
Everyone go to your computers and Google it. No, but he hit him below the knees. And
that was a completely legal hit.
It
just so happened to be
borderline.
on the quarterback.
I don't think it was dirty, but it was borderline.
See, I will give you borderline, but I will give you borderline dirty, but still legal. I will give you dirty on the hit by Lamarcus Joyner.
Absolutely.
But it was an illegal hit, and it didn't need to happen, but everyone was up in arms about it, when really, if you watch it slowly, at the end, it looks like he's going... And you really have to be on the sideline to see something like this, because the speed of the game is unbelievable. And if the replays make it look like, oh, he's just going right for him. No, because it kind of looked like he was pulling off, and you're going 15 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour on the field, and it's hard to just all of a sudden stop.
Yeah, let's talk about this hit. Talking about the Lamarcus Joyner hit. First off, I'm so glad the Vikings, the very next possession when the Rams had it, Linval Joseph just decked Foles right in the face. I was happy.
And then
I was happy that he got a penalty, because you got to send a message.
And first of all,
Linval Joseph, thank you.
I thought the penalty on him was a soft call. I hate...
he just hit him like
I hate these soft
chest.
roughing the passer calls. I think the issue was that same drive, Everson Griffin comes wide open right up the middle on a stunt route and just drills him on the lower half. Like, that's another illegal hit. And he was in the pocket. So obviously the Vikings were retaliating, which
as
makes them just as dirty as the Rams.
No. So we'll talk about the hit. Lamarcus Joyner, I think it was the very next drive. I think 2 drives in a row. Bridgewater is sliding, had been sliding for several yards, and you can tell when a quarterback's about to slide. You're not going to fake a slide. And Joyner launches himself towards Bridgewater. And here's the thing. Bridgewater's knee wasn't on the ground, but his back of his leg was on the ground. He's clearly sliding. And if you slide, you can't get up and run afterwards. You're down, even if no one touches you. And Joyner still launches himself and elbows Bridgewater right in the face, knocked him out cold. And it was a dirty play. I think so.
I think it runs along the line of dirty, but
I don't think he was trying to hurt him, but I think he was definitely trying to hit him, which you're not allowed to do when a quarterback's already sliding.
Well, he was trying to do his job, which was... Because when you see a quarterback standing up on the field and he is legal to hit, you're going to take a good look at him. That doesn't make any of you dirty. You want to get that quarterback out of the game because it betters your chances. And I'm not saying go and hurt someone, but send him a message. Absolutely. And then when it runs along the line of him actually getting injured, then the questions start, is it a dirty player?
Yeah, and Joyner didn't even get flagged on the play.
Yeah, he did.
He did?
He did. They gave him 15 yards, and he's expecting a fine.
Yeah, about $25,000 probably.
I'd like $25,000. Yeah. Don't say like it's nothing.
But Bridgewater, he got a concussion. He already passed the first round of concussion tests, so I think he'll be good to go. But before we get into further topics about this game, we have a public service announcement for you. And this one is very fitting today because... Never mind. I'll read a different one.
Man, this has been a struggle.
Yeah. Regardless of efforts to provide a safe campus, there's no guarantee that a person will not become the victim of a crime while on campus. The possibility does exist and is always present. Crime prevention on campus is not just the responsibility of the Webster University Department of Public Safety. It is a shared responsibility between the individual and the Department of Public Safety. Students, faculty, and staff must accept responsibility for helping to maintain a safe environment. Be prepared. Save public safety's emergency contact in your phone now. That number is 314-968-6911. Again, that's 314-968-6911. This has been a public service announcement from your station, your voice, the Galaxy Radio. Let's talk a little bit more about this game, but not really this game, but about the teams. Are the Vikings Super Bowl contenders?
No. And here's the reason. I like their defense. I like their running game. I do not like their quarterback. And I'm not saying I don't like him as a person. I just don't think he is at that caliber of quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
Only a second-year quarterback.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater.
And his weapons on the outside, you do have Stephon Diggs, but is he just like another Mike Wallace?
Yeah, Mike Wallace hasn't really done much
exactly.
so far this year.
And then you don't have you don't have that number one guy. And I think that's something in today's NFL you absolutely need to win. Do I think they're a playoff team? Yes. Do I think they are division contenders? Yes, especially since Green Bay has been terrible these last 2 weeks. So if they don't make the playoffs, I think it'll be a shock, honestly.
Yeah, right now the Vikings are at 6-2, as are the Packers. So the Vikings tied for first in the NFC North. And then in the wild card race, they're 2 games ahead of the next team. So the Falcons are 6-3 now, so 1 game ahead. Falcons are 6-3, and so the Vikings right now look like they're a playoff team, led by that defense, top 5 defense right now.
And it's weird because who's the big name on that defense?
Harrison Smith, maybe.
Harrison Smith out of Notre Dame, maybe. I mean, he's a good. He had better years than what he's having right now. Everson Griffin has been coming on these last 2 years, but he's so inconsistent. You had Sharif Floyd, a first-round draft pick, couple years ago.
He's injured right now. Yeah.
Chad Greenway's been in the league for 10 years. Xavier Rhodes, he's an up-and-coming corner.
Yeah, I think their defense is so young. Like you talk about Rhodes, Trey Waynes, Kendricks and Barr in the linebacking court. They're so young that. And Floyd on the defense line, they're so young. It's impressive what they're doing right now. And you got to give credit to Mike Zimmer, the head coach.
Mike Zimmer, he came from Cincinnati. He was defensive coordinator. I think people like Chad Greenway, who's their veteran, Shane Robison. Those guys know
Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson, sorry. Those guys, it's that good mix of young players and talent and older veterans.
And Terrence Newman. Coming from Cincinnati.
I couldn't tell you how much he's helped Xavier Rhodes. I remember his rookie year, Xavier Rhodes couldn't catch a cold. He couldn't cover
picked on all the time. Yeah. And you said Trey Waynes was someone you wanted the Rams to draft.
Rams pick up, but that's just like my hatred towards Janoris Jenkins. But that's another story for another day.
So the Vikings right now, I think that they'll make the playoffs, and once you get to the playoffs are about defense and run games. And that's what they have. And so I don't know if they're a Super Bowl contender, but I think they're definitely a team that in January, you don't want to go play outdoors in Minnesota.
Oh, no, that's too cold. I mean, maybe a team like Pittsburgh would do it, but that's if Pittsburgh even makes – and Pittsburgh isn't like the old Pittsburgh Steelers.
And Ben Roethlisberger is injured out next 2 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, a team's not going to – does Carolina want to go play – Carolina.
I think Carolina doesn't mind playing.
It'd be a wild card team. Would the Falcons want to go play?
Not a dome team like the Falcons.
Yeah, and so the Vikings definitely have a shot to make some noise in the playoffs.
I honestly think the only teams that would be willing to deal with that
Packers
are teams from the NFC West.
Yeah, and the Packers are used to playing.
And the Packers are used to it. But even though the teams from the NFC West, they play in warmer climates like San Francisco and Arizona. But that's the style of ball they play. Mm-hmm. They're not going to spread it out and throw it 4 wide and just throw it all day. You got Seattle, they're going to run the ball. San Francisco's going to run the ball. Arizona, even though Bruce Arians is their coach, they still want to run the ball. And they'll hit you in the mouth. And that's the kind of ball you need to play in the playoffs.
And let's talk about the Rams' playoff chances. They're 4-4 right now, but the second wild card right now held by the Falcons at 6-3. So they're only a half game out in the loss column. Can the Rams make a run to the second wild card spot?
You know, I think if
I don't. That's not a good sound. Then,
I said that the Rams' chances at making the playoffs this year would be determined if they beat the Vikings, because it was for that last play or wild card spot. The Rams would have to go 6-2 probably over the last 8 games to make it to the playoffs, and that's going up against a competing Seahawks team that is getting better every week. You have to play Arizona again. You have to play the undefeated Bengals. You know, it's a tough schedule, but it's not out of the question, because the team is going to get better and they're going to get healthier. The offensive line is going to get better. Todd Gurley is going to be a beast, and you have a top 5 defense still. It's just
they're a work in progress right now.
Well, it's a young team, and the thing about Jeff Fisher's team in St. Louis is how inconsistent they are. They win one game, lose another. They win a big game, and then they lose to a team they should beat. Like I was happy they won 2 games in a row, but then they go up to Minnesota and they act like they've never heard a hard count before, and they jump off sides 5 times.
That was very impressive.
Like Aaron Rodgers has the best hard count in the NFL, and they didn't jump off sides once. And Teddy Bridgewater had him in his backfield the entire game.
And they jumped off sides with Sean Hill too.
Yeah, I know. And honestly, I think the Rams would have won that game if they were completely healthy, because Robert Quinn might have actually gotten a pass rush. But you can't make those excuses for a team. You should, when your defense only gives up 18 points in regulation time, you need to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
How many teams are only allowing 18 points a game? Your offense should score you points.
I mean, the Vikings, they're the only team that has kept every team under 23.
Yeah.
And so if you keep a team under 20, you give yourself a chance to win.
You should win. And I think the offense will improve, and great transition point right here.
Yeah, Wes Welker, is he going to save the offense?
See, I've been thinking about this for a few days. And
let's say, for those you don't know, the Rams signed Wes Welker the other day, and he hasn't played this year, hadn't even been in preseason with the team, and so he's taken some time off. Has dealt with concussions last year. I think that's going to impact him, and I don't think he's going to do much.
See, here's the thing with Wes Welker. He's great. He's a great slot receiver, unbelievable. But you can ask players around the league. St. Louis is probably one of the hardest surfaces in the league because it's one of those turf fields.
Mm-hmm.
And because of those hard surfaces, that just increases the risk of getting a concussion if your head hits the ground the right way. And this guy is one concussion away from not knowing the name of his kids. And that's a problem. And no one wants to deal with that. And I know we're desperate, but still, this guy's life is on the line. And just because you need a more talented receiver, you got to think football and family. And obviously, he thought about it, and he thought he was okay.
And probably medical evaluation said he was good to go. But we saw with another slot wide receiver, Austin Collie, for the Colts, kept getting concussions, and now he's out of the league. And I don't know if it's smart for Wes Welker to risk it. But I mean, I'm sure if I was in this situation, I'd want to keep playing too. You know, it's the love of the game thing.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, you know, if you're just bored and you're going on YouTube and you're like, top hits of this year, Wes Welker is usually in those because he's getting popped by someone going across the middle. And
you got to respect him for that, for putting his body on the line week in, week out.
But here's from a schematical standpoint, he doesn't necessarily fit because the Rams like to run that 2 tight end with a fullback and then pound it, and then either 2 wideouts on the outside or 1 wideout with a fullback. And if you're going 2 wide, your 2 receivers right now are Tavon Austin and Wes Welker. You can't have 2 short guys on the outside. I know Tavon has the ability to be on the outside, but he's a slot receiver too.
Yeah. So
you're going to have to take one of those tight ends out just to put in Wes Welker or Tavon on the inside slot position, the Z position. And it takes away what you want to do on offense, which is run the ball, pound it. And I just schematically, I didn't think it worked out. I think Hakeem Nicks would have been, but he drops the ball a lot. There was just really no other options if you think about it.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone coming off the street is going to save the Rams' offense.
Well, here's the thing. Last year, Wes Welker had 890 yards receiving, and that's through an injury-plagued season. No one on the Rams currently has ever had an 800-yard receiving season.
Yeah, and he can be someone that is a good mentor to Tavon Austin, tell Stedman Bailey to stop taking steroids, that kind of stuff.
That's frustrating, and I'm glad Jeff Fisher said that he's on his third strike right now, and if something happens, he's gone.
Yeah, Stedman Bailey suspended 4 games. That's why the Rams had to go out and get a wide receiver. Let's talk about
even with Stedman Bailey, I think they still need another receiver.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about some Webster news. Here's something interesting. Webster University is planning to double the study abroad numbers by the year 2020. Check that out at thewebsterjournal.com. Great article written by a great writer, Kayvon Mansouri.
Hey, Kayvon, if you're listening.
Yeah, so check that out at thewebsterjournal.com, and there's all kinds of good stuff there. Most of the good stuff is written by Kayvon, let's be honest.
Oh, and this terrific writer named Kevin Smith.
Yes. Hey, you know what we should talk about now?
What?
Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn, Tommy John surgery. He is going to miss the entire 2016 season. That's a big blow.
And I was listening to the radio, and this was explained to me very well on how big a deal losing Lance Lynn is. Because right now, you've lost Lance Lynn and you've lost John Lackey. That is 42% of your innings pitched last year, which you're losing a massive chunk. And everyone else on the pitching rotation has injury questions. You got Adam Wainwright, who's been injured every other year.
And getting up there in
You have
age.
Jaime Garcia that gets injured almost every year. Michael Wacha has had shoulder problems.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos Martinez is right now coming over shoulder problems. You have no one to eat innings. That would have been your bulldog Lance Lynn. That's who would have taken that spot.
And we talk about another pitching prospect for the Cardinals that was expected, I think, to be at least part of the rotation in the later part of the season.
He was going to be invited to spring training.
Alex Reyes, pitching prospect. He is suspended 50 games for marijuana. And it's just second time you said?
Second time.
What's up with that, Jacob?
Some people just don't know how to get off of it, I guess. I don't know. But he was going to get invited to spring training, get some experience. He was probably going to go down to AAA, but maybe start in AA, then move up to AAA. I think they were going to handle him like they did Carlos Martinez and bring him up in the bullpen for a little bit and get him some innings in the major league experience up in the bullpen and then slowly put him into the rotation. But this guy's got electric stuff. It was explained to everyone by John Mozeliak that you think of Carlos Martinez stuff, Michael Wacha's body, but multiply Carlos Martinez stuff by 3. This guy throws 100+ as a starter, and his breaking balls are pretty good for a young pitcher right now. And you will never trade this guy for anybody. It would take like a Mike Trout trade to send this guy off somewhere. He is going to be your number 1 eventually. And
maybe. I mean, he keeps getting suspended. He hasn't even made the majors yet.
The Cardinals will, if he's a lost cause, the Cardinals will get rid of him, and they'll get rid of him at the right time. But the guy, if you read what the guy said after he got caught, he took full responsibility, and
he's people that get caught. They only say they're sorry because they got caught. They're sorry they got caught. They're not sorry that they did the thing.
He's sorry that he disappointed his team.
He's sorry he got caught.
Well, yeah.
He doesn't care.
I think he cares because his ultimate goal is to make it to the majors, and he knows this is not only hindering his own career path, but it's hindering a whole organization because there was a plan for him. And I mean, you got to learn this, and it's the Cardinal way that everyone believes in, and which I'm believing in right now, that will fix him. But I also know that the Cardinal way will say, you're a lost cause, you're gone, and then it's someone else's problem. But it leads into so many more questions on how the pitching I know there's first-round draft pick Marco Gonzalez, but he was pushed back a year because of injuries all this year. When's he going to make it to the majors? You lose John Lackey probably. You lost Lance Lynn this year. Are you going to have to dive into free agency now? Are you going to try and re-sign John Lackey now? Can you afford to sign John? Are you going to go after someone like David Price and start a bidding war with Chicago? And if you start a bidding war, you're going to lose. And that's something the Cardinals don't normally do, is spend a ton of money on bidding wars. Then you go think maybe Jordan Zimmerman. Is he a fit? Is he going to be asking for too much money? It just, this injury and this suspension has brought the Cardinals offseason plan, and you've had to change the entire thing because you're going into it thinking, okay, we want to get offense. We want to sign Jason Hayward, or we put in a bid for the Korean slugger that's hitting.
The Twins won that bid.
Yeah. And
105 home runs in 2 years for this Korean guy that the Twins are going to sign.
Yeah, but if you read a lot about him, he's in a league where Marcus Thames, I don't know if you know who that is.
I don't.
He's a washout in Detroit. He was a power guy, but he washed out in Detroit. He's hitting like 45 home runs over there.
Still. And they've projected him to be like a 25 to 30 home run guy in the majors. And then there was maybe Chris Davis to sign Chris Davis and come over to the Cardinals, and that fixes your first base position. Or it's just now you have to change your entire plan on pitching. Now you have to go find pitching, and maybe you get Mark Burley to come back for a year. He's always wanted to pitch for the Cardinals because he's a local guy. I think he's done. I'm looking right now at the 2016 MLB free agents. There are so many big name pitchers that are free agents. I think a lot of them are towards the end of their career, like Cliff Lee.
I wouldn't touch him.
Doug Fister's a free agent.
He was horrible last year. Bring
Kyle Loesch back?
No.
Greinke, he's not coming.
Greinke you'd have to pay him
Jeff Samardzija.
I'd like Jeff Samardzija. He'd be a good Cardinal.
Hisashi Iwakuma. He threw a no-hitter this year for
You'd
the
have to give
him
a first-round draft pick for him.
There, Mike Leake.
He would work. What the Cardinals really are looking for, instead of like a giant signing, they want to find another Lance Lynn, a guy that's going to give them 200 innings a season.
The Alex Reyes suspension is his second. On your third suspension, it is 100 games.
Or is it a full season?
100 games, and then the fourth suspension can be a lifetime ban. So he's halfway to a lifetime ban.
I thought it was...
No, I just looked up the rules.
50 and then 162.
No, it's 50 and then 100 and then a potential lifetime ban. I just looked up the rules.
Okay.
But this third straight year that a major Cardinals pitcher has gotten in, maybe even more than 3, but from what I can remember, Lance Lynn this year, last year Wainwright out middle part of the season, and then Waka got injured towards the end of 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
And then the year before that was Wainwright again.
Yeah, so pitching... But, I mean, it doesn't ever seem to affect them. I mean, they still put out good pitchers that win games.
Eventually it comes back to bite you, though.
Yeah.
And right now, the Cardinals organization, like in the farm system, it's getting kind of dry. You've had to call up guys like Steven Piscotty, and then the loss of Oscar Tavares, obviously. He was a cornerstone for you. You had Shelby Miller. You had to trade him because you had to replace Tavares. You had to get Hayward. They need to start building the farm system again. But the problem was there were talks that Lance Lynn would be traded. And there were talks maybe Lance Lynn would be traded to Tampa Bay, maybe for Evan Longoria. And what you would do is you put Evan Longoria at third. You move Matt Carpenter to his original position that he played in college to first. You might not get the 40 home runs, but he's shown power. Mm-hmm. And Evan Longoria is a better defensive third baseman. And then all you have to worry about is right field because you had a surplus of pitching. Now you don't have a surplus of pitching, and you got to figure out what you're going to do about that.
So that's definitely season is a long way away, but start getting into free agent signs like in December. And so it comes up quickly.
And the one guy that the whole free agency is centered around, surprisingly, isn't even a player, and it's one of the most hated. I hate this man, Scott Boras,
An agent.
This guy will not let his player sign for a nickel less than he wants.
And it's because he wants his money.
Ex-
But we'll talk about that more once we'll still be on the air when the next season starts. So,
will we? Interesting.
yeah, because we're going to do this again next semester.
I don't know. They might kick us off.
Yeah, probably. For our terrible starts, having to hit all the buttons and not knowing which ones to press.
I don't even know if we're even on air, man.
It could be no one's hearing us right now. We're just talking to each other. But if we are on the air, there's several ways to hear the Galaxy Radio. You like that segue?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You can listen on your smartphone or on your computer at thegalaxyradio.com. Here's something cool we're doing. We're giving away pizza, a whole pizza, not just a slice of pizza or anything, a whole pizza. You got to fill out a survey, though. Really easy. Jacob, you filled out the survey, right?
Yeah, no one go fill out the survey right now. I wanted to win it this week.
Nah, so fill out that survey.
Make sure Jacob doesn't get his pizza.
Fill out that survey. You can find it at thegalaxyradio.com. You can also listen with an app. Are you big into applications, Jacob?
I like to get the games on my phone.
Oh, you should get the TuneIn mobile app, and you can search for the Galaxy Radio, and you can listen to us with an app. So that's pretty cool, right?
I guess.
Great enthusiasm from Jacob Classbell. Let's talk about Webster.
Webster?
Man, we're Webster students. One of us is a Webster athlete. One of us is not.
Tell us which one it is.
We let the listeners decide.
Phones start blowing up. Oh,
oh, everyone thinks it's Jacob. 3 Webster sports ended this past weekend. Webster volleyball, man, they lost in the semifinals of the SLIAC tournament. They're going for their 5th straight tournament. They had a successful season, but they lost so many players from last year's team.
but here's the thing: you were I can't even talk right now.
You're flustered.
I'm flustered based on your previous comments about me. But you have people like Rachel Nelson, Emma Kabuti, Jory Siebenmorgan. These are extremely experienced, extremely talented players, and it seemed like they replaced them. And so I'm not saying there's no excuse, because obviously if you're losing, you're going up against some pretty good talent, because the team was talented. And what you got to look at is that the season wasn't a loss.
Yeah,
You made it this far, and while they were experienced, they did have some newcomers. And Joy Siebenmorgan, as good as she is, this was her first year playing for them as a transfer. And that's something that you have to put into account, that it matters.
Yeah, and the goal of any season is to give yourself a chance. And they made the tournament, and they have some seniors. They lose Rachel Nelson, they lose Kabuti, but they have young players, freshmen that competed and started for this team. I think Mary Graff has a good team moving forward.
I think she does too, and she's going to have Siebenmorgan back next year as a junior. She'll be a senior next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her, and then
Katie O'Toole will be a senior. Already 1,000 digs in her career.
I think Bedrovich. I think
one of the
she
freshmen
will be a good addition. I don't want to say addition because she got good minutes, but she will come up big next year too.
Trivia question: who is the longest tenured coach at Webster University?
Is it someone that we already mentioned?
I'm not going to give you a hint. It's an easy question.
I'm going to say Mary Graff.
Yeah, it's Mary Graff. She's the
Call
longest tenured. Who's the second? Do you know the second longest?
I'm going to go with... Can I get a sport?
No. Because if I give you the sport, then you know the coach.
Give me a player on their team.
Kevin Smith.
Oh, it's Coach Bunch.
Oh, so I'm the athlete. Kind of. Let's...
If he wants to call himself that, yeah.
We're having lapses here where we just like fall off the cliff and just are bad. What's up, man?
I don't. Maybe. There's just this looming rain that's coming.
Maybe even a tornado.
I heard hail. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go park my car.
Hail no.
That's our bad joke of the day.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy I got to say that. Let's talk about...
That was not planned either.
Let's talk about Webster soccer. Webster women they won their 4th straight regular season title, trying to make the NCAA tournament. And they made the championship game of the SLIAC tournament. And Kayla Dye had a chance with 10 seconds left to score. Her shot went just wide. Goes to PKs. Have you ever played soccer?
Yeah.
I
played goalie, actually.
Have you ever had a game go to PKs?
I did, actually.
Dang.
My dad loves telling the story of my first PK match.
And you let them all in?
No, I actually stopped them all. But the goal was all of like 3 feet wide because I was like 7.
Yeah. So that's like the most dramatic finish to any sporting event, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's one-on-one. If you score, you can win it. If you don't score, you don't win it. And that's what happened for Webster. They lost 5-4 on penalty kicks. Allie Ferguson's penalty kick tried tie up at 5, hit the crossbar.
That is the killer. I can't even tell you. That'd be like shooting a 3-pointer at the buzzer and it rimming out.
And it like rims out for like 5 seconds where it just
spins.
It just goes around the rim and then falls
Or
off.
it's like a walk-off home run.
It gets robbed.
It gets robbed.
Or it goes foul.
Just barely misses the pole.
Oh, my gosh. That's a disappointing loss. No way around it.
And they overcame injuries. There were some ups. There were some downs. You're losing all your senior captains.
Well, yeah, the Ashley Mess, Jessica Mess, they're both graduating.
Jessica wasn't a captain. Ashley, I believe, was a captain. Lauren Pratt was a captain. And Lauren Nelly, I think, is either a junior or a senior.
She was injured this year.
And she was actually injured, yeah.
Yeah, but like the volleyball team, they got a young team that I think their best player this year was Chelsea Noser, led the team in goals, and she's only a freshman because she missed last year with an injury. And so a similar situation, a good team moving forward, and a team that Coach Luigi always has them competing hard.
Well, that's because Luigi is a great coach.
Yeah.
And here your offense is going to be led by Nozier and Dye at the top. Think of that. The two top goal scorers over the last 2 years are coming back.
Yeah, they're going to have a good team.
It's going to be an offensive plus your goalkeeping both young, and so they all got experience.
Both their goalies were ranked in the top 5 in goals against them, and so they're both back.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have a good season next year.
And then Brianna Pagan, their second leading goal scorer this year, is coming back as well, and she plays in the midfield. And so you're going to have a talented team next year. And to expect anything less than another conference championship, I don't think it's out of the question.
They'll go for their 5th straight next year. That's impressive in any sport. The men's soccer team made the championship game. I don't think that was expected for them this year. They had a super young team. Like, they graduated everyone, really.
Yeah, I believe it was like 18
players they lost from last year's team. And they made the championship game. Westminster had a great team this year and beat them. But we feel like broken records right now saying that Webster's going to have they had a young team this year, and so they'll be better next year. But it's true in all these sports. They had a really young team.
And that was one thing coming in that everyone expected from the men's soccer team. I talked to Coach Senior, and he's like, yeah, there's going to be growing pains this year because we have such a young team. But they overcame those growing pains. Their leading goal scorer is Zach
Garicka, and he's a freshman.
A freshman. Leading scorer as a freshman. And it was a good combination of seniors and juniors and then or upperclassmen and underclassmen. And I think when you do that, it makes next year and the year after that, it makes it that much easier because these freshmen and sophomore already know what it's going to be like as a junior and senior. They're getting taught the right way. They're getting coached the right way. And it was really the first year without Marty Tote on their coaching staff. So there was an adjustment there. And so all these teams you expect to get better over the offseason, and you expect to do better the next season.
Speaking of Webster, we have events for you. And Jacob, he's big on events. He goes to events all the time.
Nice.
Probably goes to an event every single day of the week, right?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. So let's talk about we talked about this one last week, but I think this one is a good event that Jacob should go to. Dance Through the Decades. Find your dancing shoes November 13th for the grand finale of our year-long centennial celebration. The event is free beginning at 9:30 and it goes to 11 p.m. 9:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's not like 14 hours. 9:30 to 11 p.m. Registration online is requested and tickets are required. This event brought to you by your station, Your Voice, the Galaxy Radio. Webster's 100 years old, guys, so check out the events, man. Go dance.
Free food.
Dance with Beth Strobel.
Maybe. I don't know if there's free food.
Dance with Beth Strobel.
Yeah, you don't get that opportunity every day.
You actually never get that opportunity.
That's where the saying comes from.
Okay.
Come on, Kev.
I'm sorry. You know what starts on in just a few days? Webster basketball. They have their first game on Saturday.
I'm sensing a little bit of bias coming up.
No, I'm just saying. Webster University, the women's team has a bunch of new players. Double-digit new players this year.
Yeah, and it's good and bad.
Yes.
It's good that, in a couple years your team is going to be experienced and it's going to be talented. But here's the question, and it's happened a lot lately, the number of people that don't finish their 4 years on the basketball team, the women's team especially. Like last year there was only one senior. Mm-hmm. And there's questions like, your recruiting classes are bringing in this many people, but they're only leaving with one or two seniors.
And we see that in the men's basketball team too. Only one senior on the team. Technically two. I'm a senior, but we don't have to talk about that.
Maybe we should talk to your coach.
Yeah, probably. But Taylor Walton, the only senior on the men's team, they have a young team, but they were voted. I say young team having only one senior, but a lot of guys that played last year. And they were voted, the men's team was voted to win the SLIAC this year, which I think is very possible.
And this is the example that we're trying to get to, that all the other athletic teams that we talked about are going to try and do next year. See, last year they were experienced. They lost a lot of players from graduation. And those younger players that got experience the year before are now going to step into leadership positions. And that's what all the other teams are looking for. If there's success, that's great. If there's not, there's still room to grow. And a lot of players did get some good minutes. And Hunter Ward is a junior this year. He's going to probably be looked to as their leading scorer.
Yes.
And Adam Etter.
Yeah, and a lot of their guys last year were sophomores. Adam Etter was a sophomore last year. C.J. Moore, Jonathan Ojo, Hunter Ward, they're all sophomores last year.
And then they're going to be juniors, and then they're going to have them for their senior year.
Yeah, so the men's team is going to be good. The problem with the men's team, they don't have size. They
6'5".
They have 1 6'5" guy, and so they got to compete by outrunning people.
And according to the coaches, they're just going to be dunking on everybody.
That'd be nice. They got some athletic guys in that gym.
Yeah, that's one thing Coach Bunch said, is that if you're looking for an athletic game, come watch the Gorlok's basketball team.
Yes. It's going to be fun.
I mean, you're the insider. You should help us out here.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be a good team. And here's something interesting. The defense that we play, Syracuse plays the same defense.
2-3 zone.
And the offense we run,
the triangle.
No. Wisconsin runs the same offense. So we're using known teams that have success.
You know the difference between Syracuse and Wisconsin?
They have like 6'10" guys, whatever.
Yeah, they got Rakeem Christmas in the middle just dunking on everybody. Or they got Frank Kaminsky just doing his thing.
But when it comes to the SLIAC, Webster is going to compete. So check out those games. It's an away game on Saturday, but the couple days after Thanksgiving, the Cavallo Classic, Webster will have their first home game. So check those out, man. Sports are happening.
They're always happening. That's why it's so hard to do a once a week show, because there's so much stuff that you can't talk about.
That's true. So right now we're gonna move on to other sports stuff.
Not more important than Webster University sports, though.
Never. Jacob, you know what? I'm going to let you choose what we talk about next.
That's okay.
You want to talk about college football top 10 or the NBA? Or do you want to end with the NBA like we have the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, it can be like our final rush segment.
Let's talk about college football top 10, man. I'll give you the top 4. These 4 teams, if the season ended right now, are in the playoffs. Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. What are your problems with the top 4? Do you have any?
Do I have problems with it? Not really. I think the Big 12 is getting snubbed.
Yes.
But I think by the end of the season that can change. If a Big 12 team goes undefeated, they're in the playoffs for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the real tricky thing. If Iowa goes undefeated, is the committee going to respect them enough? Because they would have to play either Michigan State or Ohio State in the championship game.
I heard if Notre Dame wins out, they're in no matter what. If
they have the best loss against Clemson, and it was a 2-point loss.
And here's the thing, Iowa, they haven't played a ranked team yet.
They played Northwestern,
who's not ranked anymore.
They were ranked when they played them.
And now they're not, so clearly they weren't deserving of the ranking.
They beat Stanford.
Iowa? No, Northwestern. Yeah, but Northwestern's not ranked anymore. You can't say, okay, you can't beat a team that's ranked when you play them, and then they lose 10 games in a row and say, oh, we beat a good team. No. Rankings are wrong sometimes, and if a team falls out of the rankings, you can't not put that notch on your bedpost saying, hey, I beat a ranked team.
Here's a sleeper pick, and this one's being talked about a little bit. Number 12, Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma plays Baylor. They play TCU. Their only loss is to the University of Texas. Hook 'em horns. Got to put that in there. But
they still have to play Oklahoma State, too.
Oklahoma State, too. Those are 3 ranked teams. If they win all 3 of those, sleeper pick.
Yeah, Baylor is number 6 right now, undefeated, and number 8 is Okie State, undefeated. If one of those 2 teams wins out, Baylor or Oklahoma State, you got to put them in, right? Because you have to. For these teams, they would have. If Baylor goes undefeated, they would have beaten Okie State. They would have beaten Oklahoma. They would have beat TCU. You have to put them in, right?
Let's do the scenario. It doesn't matter. Where Clemson goes undefeated the rest of the way.
Yes.
Alabama goes undefeated the rest of the way.
Okay.
Notre Dame goes undefeated the rest of the way.
Okay.
And then Oklahoma goes undefeated the rest of the way. And Stanford can't go undefeated the rest of the way because Notre Dame would end up beating them at the end of the year. So there's 4 right there. Then you have a 5th, and that's your Big Ten team.
Yeah.
You have Ohio State, and you have Iowa. Who's getting left out?
Yeah. Two teams at least are going to be pretty mad.
Oh yeah, and it could be one of the Big 12 teams that only has 1 loss. It could be Stanford that.
It's going to be a Big 12 team, man. They're biased against Big 12 teams, saying that they don't play real football. They just try to outscore everyone. But it works. We see, like...
It works against other Big 12
No,
teams.
but then we see in bowl games, like, it works. Like, they can compete with these teams.
Do I need to bring up Oklahoma against Florida when Sam Bradford was the quarterback?
Yeah, that happened. But
that was also a Tim Tebow-led team.
Yeah. And so if Baylor Oklahoma State wins out, it would be a travesty if a Big 12 team wasn't in.
Do Baylor and Oklahoma State not play each other?
I said Baylor or Oklahoma State.
Oh, okay.
One of them, if one of them goes undefeated, you have to put them in. The Big 12 is a tough conference, no matter how you play football. If you play it offense first or defense first.
Will not having a conference championship hurt them, though?
It hurt them last year because the conference was stupid and said they tied. When Baylor and TCU, they said, we have co-champions. That hurt them.
I remember my favorite year was when there were 3 11-1 teams in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Texas, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma. And everyone was like, who's getting in? Well, apparently what they would do, because what the decider of who would go to the conference championship is the team that was highest ranked.
Yeah.
Well, Texas Tech beat Texas, but Texas beat Oklahoma, and Oklahoma beat Texas Tech. And it's like, who do you pick? Well, Texas ultimately got picked.
Yeah.
And again, went up against Alabama, but I could talk about that game for days in the national championship. But it's how are you going to react to who beats who? Like maybe Baylor beats Oklahoma State, but TCU beats Baylor, and it's like
that hurts them not having a conference championship.
Yeah, and that conference championship, and this it's the winner of the Heisman every year, and it's the people that get into the national championships who finishes the best. And Leonard Fournette was the for sure Heisman Trophy winner in the beginning of the season. Everyone was like, oh, Leonard Fournette. No one's talking about Leonard Fournette anymore. It's Derrick Henry. He's the leader now, and he's got an easy schedule. He's probably the front runner to win the Heisman Trophy this year. And the same thing goes for the teams. It's, okay, so the Big Ten has a championship. Pac-12 has a championship. Notre Dame doesn't have a championship game. Is that going to affect them? And, the two teams that are right on the bubble, Notre Dame and the Big 12, both don't have conference games.
Yeah, we'll see if that has any impact. We'll see if I think you have to have 12 teams to have a conference championship. I think that's NCAA rules.
Yeah, you have to have so many teams in your
Yeah, you have to have 12, and Big 12 only has 10. And so
the conference realignment was
just rename them, man. Come on, Big 10 has 14 teams.
So we're going to call it the Big 14?
I don't care what you call it. Just don't lie about how many teams you have. Hey, if you like music or sports or talk shows, anything, and you want a radio show, you want to work in promotions or production, come to the Galaxy Radio. You can work behind the mic or behind the scenes. There are actually 2 positions available. I think promotions director and production director. So if you're interested, come down to the Galaxy Radio.
Actually, Kevin, there's a 3rd position. It's board operator for Here's the Thing.
Yeah.
Because right now, Kevin's still struggling with the board.
I'm struggling with the buttons, man. Hey, let's... let me count how many buttons I have to press. Like 100.
That was a good count.
I didn't count, but it's a lot of buttons, okay?
You know what I worried? That you would actually count all the buttons live on air.
1, 2. No, let's move on to our last segment, the NBA.
Kevin's favorite.
Yeah, Kevin's favorite. So let's just jump right into Kevin's 3 before we talk about a trade that happened yesterday that is... It's
spoiler.
It's just a boring trade. I mean, it's just... Meh. But here's Kevin's 3. In case you didn't know, Kevin's 3, I'd say 3 best players from last night's game based on their stats line.
So enthusiastic.
Was I sound boring?
You're like, Kevin's 3.
Kevin's 3, the 3 best players from last night. Is that better?
Better.
Number of the first guy, Russell Westbrook. Triple-double in a victory over the Wizards without Kevin Durant for the whole second half. Russell Westbrook had 22 points, 11 assists, 11 rebounds. He's doing Russell Westbrook things.
Per usual.
That's what he does.
And he's gonna have to step in again because Kevin Durant.
Yeah, Durant hurt his hamstring. We'll see how serious that is. I think he's going to get MRI today. Check that out. They didn't think it was too serious, but you never know. A hamstring injury tends to linger. They just don't go away like overnight.
You need to take a week or 2 off, and in the NBA, you don't have that time.
The second guy, LeBron James. LeBron James had 31 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, and 2 steals last night in a 118-114 victory over the Jazz. Jazz have a good defense, so 31, 8, and 7, that's pretty impressive. LeBron James doing LeBron James things. Hey, this third guy's going to surprise you, Jacob.
Not going to surprise me. I mean, I've already heard
I already told you.
Surprise the listeners,
It's going to surprise the listeners. They're going to be like, who? Mo Williams.
Is he still around in the NBA?
Mo Reese Williams last night had 20 29 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. Him and LeBron, they play on the same team. That's pretty good. 2 of the 3 from the same team.
Yeah. When you read these off to me, I wasn't happy. A, that you had 2 people from the same team.
They played well.
And B, that it was just, of course these people are going to have good games. Like, I always look forward to your Kevin's threes to be people that I've never heard of before.
Like Andre Drummond or Ricky Rubio, those guys.
Stuff like that.
Do you want me to, okay.
Andre Drummond, though, your pick.
Yeah, man, he's averaging 20 rebounds a game.
On fire.
He's averaging 20 rebounds a game. Okay, I can change it up. I can do, like, non-all-stars.
Yeah, that'd be cooler.
Okay.
Because it's like, LeBron scored 25, 8, and 6. Like,
that's true. He always does that. Deal. Okay. We can change it up. I'll do, like, non-all-stars, maybe borderline all-stars. Or a guy like Zach Randolph, who's made a couple all-star. Okay, we'll do that.
Zach Randolph, speaking of.
Yeah, speaking of that team, the Memphis Grizzlies, they made a trade.
If we had a little buzzer, we'd probably ring it and be like, hey.
Trade alert. Memphis Grizzlies, they send Bano Udrih and Jarnell Stokes, along with a heavily protected second-round pick, to the Miami Heat for James Ennis and Mario Chalmers. This trade is like, okay.
It's going to save your season.
No. The Heat, they did this because they are going to save $6 million in tax money, so that's why they did this trade, save $6 million. The Grizzlies did it because they've lost 3 in a row, and they thought they needed to do something.
Do you think that the Grizzlies should just give up on this season?
The thing is, they can't really tank successfully because they don't have young guys to develop. Like, they just traded a guy they drafted the guy they traded draft picks for last year, Jarnell Stokes. They just traded him. They a couple years ago they drafted Tony Roten. They traded him. 2 years ago they drafted Jamal Franklin. They cut him. So they draft young guys and then they don't play them. So I mean, they can't really rebuild because they don't have young guys to rebuild with. So
maybe you just start rebuilding the whole thing.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons, number 1 draft pick next year. Who do you keep up with? Who's going to be?
It's going to be Ben Simmons.
You think so?
Yeah.
I've heard Scal Labassiere, thank you. I hear he's
legit.
He's legit, yeah, and he's one of them.
He's got to bulk up, but we see that. We saw that with Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
So,
but I hear he's wicked talented down there in Lexington.
I mean, Ben Simmons, they always compare these guys to NBA players now. They said he's 6'10" LeBron James.
Well, they said Andrew Wiggins was the next LeBron James, and that dude is skinny.
Yeah, so
I thought that was a horrible comparison.
So, yeah, the Grizzlies make that trade. They play the Warriors tonight. They lost to them by 50 last time, and Chalmers isn't playing tonight.
Keep it under 50.
Yeah.
Keep it under 50.
That's where the crowd's going to be chanting.
Well, what did you think about the Clippers tweet?
The hashtag didn't lose by 50.
Hashtag didn't lose by 50.
Yeah.
Were you upset with it like the players were?
The players were upset. Even Doc Rivers said it was really bad. So, I mean, it's like, here's my perspective. If you don't want the Clippers to tweet that, don't lose by 50.
At least play a little defense.
If you don't like being made fun of, you being bad at something, then don't be bad at it. I mean, that's just my feeling.
Do you think everyone on the Grizzlies roster is on the trading block right now?
No. I don't think Mike. I think Mike Conley and Marc Gasol are off limits. Anyone else could get traded. Even
if it's a rebuilding year and they're like, hey, we want to start from scratch?
They'll keep Mike Conley and Marc Gasol, I think.
That's the only way you're going to really get anything, though, is if you trade one of them.
I think Zach Randolph, right now, he's playing very well. You can get something for him. But
I don't see that.
Jeff Green.
As a Celtics fan over here, Jeff Green frustrates me.
He frustrates everyone.
And
he's the Grizzlies scapegoat.
To this day, I still don't understand the Boston Celtics. Legit. You don't give away Rajon Rondo, who is your best player, and then go draft Marcus Smart, who can't do anything, it seems like. He can't shoot.
He's always injured.
He can't pass.
He's always injured.
He's always injured.
He's always injured. Well, Yep, NBA, man, we like it. Only 8 games in, so tonight, check it out. Warriors 8-0 playing the Grizzlies 3-5.
We're going to be watching that tonight?
Yes, I have NBA League Pass, so in our night class, we will be watching it.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. We thank you guys for joining us on Here's the Thing. Check us out on Facebook at here. Just search Here's the Thing. It's pretty easy. Let us know what you think about sports.
If you want to comment during the show, feel free. I got my phone next to me, and I will.
Absolutely.
Last episode, we had someone Facebook us, and it was great.
Scott Lunty texted me during this show and asked if you were the athlete. So, yep. So we thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week on Here's the Thing.
Stay safe. Watch out for them hails and tornadoes.
Thank you, Jacob. Weatherman Jacob. We'll see you next week.